You are now tuned into the sounds of
Big Nate Sports Talk.
It's on all the time, anytime.
Tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nathan.
Cut it off! I am having a very bad day. I am in no mood. This, today, is one of the worst days that I've had in a long time. I'm not in the mood to play with anybody. I mean, damn it. I'm ticked off.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. This is your host, Nathan Snell of the podcast, Mr. Anthony Handy. As always, thank you for the introduction. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all staying safe. This is episode number 387. In this episode, we are recapping the loss to the Las Vegas Raiders, and we're also previewing the upcoming matchup Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys. Before we get into that, there's a few things I want to say up front. I have a special guest coming on. Well, I had him already on, Sean Spencer from Let's Talk Football, host of Watch the Football Weekly. Appreciate him on the show. The WNBA season, as of today, is finished. Get ready for the playoffs this upcoming weekend, so stay tuned for that. That's pretty much all the announcements I have. So let's just get right into it. The Baltimore Ravens took a 26-23 loss at home to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh my God!
What was that? What the hell was that? I'm sorry the H words and the D words aren't appropriate over the airways, but it's going to be today. I don't know how much more of this I can take. How?
I just don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. This is disgusting. It's disgraceful. It's embarrassing. And I'm ticked off. It don't make any sense. This is unacceptable. Unacceptable. And something needs to be done about it. Quick, fast, and in a hurry.
So, let's just pretty much look at it from this perspective. This was a tale of two halves. I want to really start from the Ravens' perspective. I thought we set the tone, and our second half drive set the tone. The offense was immensely poor, but it did all the right things. I mean, we, for the most part, we had over 350 yards total on 62 plays, and we were 3 of 11 on third down. I want to break down that first half, that first drive of the second half. It was a 29-yard run by Derrick Henry, a 16-yard pass to Mark Andrews, and an 8-yard touchdown to Zay Flowers. We were up 10 going in the third quarter. I really thought that for me, it really started in the first half. You've got to pay attention to detail. Like to me, shout out to Robert Griffin III. He we're not playing like this is not Raven football, and especially when you got 11 penalties, you're 3 for 11 on third downs. You're not attentive to details. That this is not a Ravens team that I'd expect to look the last 2 weeks. And for me, and especially, I'm a hold off on Jordan Stout in a bit, but for me, if you're going, it starts with coaching, and what I mean by that is again, how we came out. Like I could tell the game plan. No, everyone was on the same page, and especially on both sides of the ball. It either we're taking too long, or we're not making the adjustments at all. Kansas City is a great example. You let Chris Jones, literally play like it was dodgeball. And actually, it was like bowling. He was just specifically picking out his targets, and especially on the right side of the ball. And if you remember, strip sack, several stops behind the line of scrimmage. Then comes Max Crosby. We did not do enough to contain the damage. He is outside maybe Devontae Adams and Gardner Minshew. He is arguably the reason they won that game. And I'm gonna get to John Harbaugh a little bit. And the fact that you still opted not to provide any help at right tackle. Roger, for the most part, held his own. But my God, Daniel Falele, God bless him, is not a guard. 6'8", he's not versatile. And especially there's a play, it doesn't even involve Max Crosby. It involves Christian Wilkins, where Falele goes to his right, Christian Watkins goes to his right, Falele's left, untouched. How do you let that happen? It is beyond me. And then especially when you let the Brock Bowers and Devontae Adams, we did not do a good job containing them. They both contained 68 of their 276 yards receiving, but Devontae Adams, we had no answers for him. And again, like Zach Orr, give your corner, Brandon Stevens, some help on the top. And you got to be kidding. Brock Bowers, he had 98 yards receiving. And then obviously, then Marlon Humphrey getting beat on that 1-yard touchdown. But again, I don't know if it starts with Harbaugh, but it starts with our coaches not adequately planning to win the game, and the lack there are adjustments, because you're going to continue to see struggles like this. And I'm not surprised by this. My next point, as I put my and my next takeaway was, I don't know what these I don't know who is in the booth that's telling John, oh, you need to challenge this, because he's not that's where I call out his coaching decisions, John Harbaugh, because especially there were two receptions he chose to throw the flag that really that we lost timeouts that really could have put us in a position to score at the end of both halves. Let me give you an example. the fact that you chose not to challenge the interception, the incompletion diving attempt on Zay Flowers that was near sideline, made by replay, he could have stopped the clock, if I remember correctly, on that final drive of the second quarter. Might had 2 more shots getting in the end zone. What did you do? You decided to hurry up offense, throw a ball in the middle of the field to Mark Andrews, and then you had time for one more play, which ended in a field goal. Now, the dumbest challenge of the game was when you went with the toe drag catch by Devontae Adams. It was clearly a catch, but if you instead that last time we had those 27 seconds on offense of that final drive, at least would have stopped the clock to at least a game-tying field goal or forced overtime. No, but again, it's like it's frustrating because like it's things like that I don't know what he's doing. My next issue is our running game. Derrick Henry had the 29-yard gain, and then the Zay Flowers touchdown, and then in that same half he has 17 yards, 18 carries or 84 yards. Where was it in the first half of the game? That's on Monken. And especially, I mean, there was one particular play where Max Crosby got him for a loss. And then, but at half, Justice Hill and Derrick Henry combined had 8 carries on 9 yards.
I can't defend that. What do you want me to say to that?
He didn't even try.
I just don't understand that. And I understand this offensive line is a work in progress. But I mean, like, I personally don't think you have the right 5 out there. I mean, Roger Rosengarten came out off the bench, and I mean, he got better as the game went on. Falele is just, again, he's not a guard, and like I don't know what he's seeing out there to make you that is you're defending what you're constructing, because if the identity is smash mouth down your throat power football, winning the battle up front, having a running game that was completely taken out in the first half of the game is simply not going to win you it's not going to win you football.
I mean, this is some bad stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how much more of this I can take. I just don't know. This is ridiculous. Oh Lord.
And then, but to make also, in fairness to Las Vegas, didn't have a great day running the ball either. They were I think they were worser compared to the week before against the Los Angeles Chargers. Zahir White finished with 24 yards and rushing 9 carries, but out of those 24 yards, 15 of them on that last drive. Alexander Madsen, he only had 1 yard on 4 rushing attempts. I mean, they finished with 27 yards on the ground with 17 carries. I'm not really. I wouldn't, if I'm going on the tape this week, I wouldn't be pleased about that. But your MVP in this game was Max Crosby. You also to give Gardner Minshew his credit. This is the set. I mean, I feel like Gardner Minshew is becoming a thorn in the side for us, because we're doing he's doing all the things they need to do to win, and he made when it was necessary. They made the right plays, all those different things like that. So shout out to them. But from an offensive standpoint, I don't see any rhythm. I see a lack of inconsistency at times. I mean, the fact that we've scored 43 points in these 2 games, that's great. But there have been some droughts where we're not scoring the ball. And again, Kansas City, we came out in that first drive. We didn't score until we kicked the field goal to end the first half. We did not score in that third quarter in that game, but we did score 10 points and potentially, well, it should have been 17. Had Zay Flower if that was what the catch, but that's either here nor there. But in the same thing, for the first half. We didn't score a touchdown against this Raiders team. They scored a touchdown less than 4 minutes into the third quarter and didn't score again until the early fourth quarter. How you do not score the football in the last probably 12 minutes of the game is beyond me. That's coaching. That's a lack of adjustments. That's on Monken. That's on Harbaugh. And they got to be held accountable for that. And especially when you went 3-0 on the last 2 drives of the game and badly when you needed to score to stop their momentum for Vegas aside. I'm telling you, this is giving last year. I mean, I've seen the flashes what this can be. I mean, Derrick Henry got going in the second half, and they showed at times some misdirection, short and long passes. But again, I mean, they look better when they're playing tempo football. But I'm extremely concerned going into Dallas because I'm trying to understand with the wealth of weapons that you have. You have Mark Andrews, Likely, Flowers, Bateman, and that's another guy I got to get on real quick. Rashard Bateman. This is why I can see why you have those in the community that have wanted him to be traded, because there's a catch. It's in your breadbasket. You got to catch that. I mean, there's no excuse for that. I think Rashard Bateman is a great wide receiver, but it's little things like that. I kind of see why people were so quick to throw the towel on him. But for me, I mean, we are our own worst enemy. And again, you have 10 penalties for 109 yards compared to Las Vegas' 3 for 15. Brandon Stevens, and that was the right call. You have to call that. Brandon Stevens knew what he was doing. That's pass interference to Devontae Adams. And that's going to happen. I really I don't want to do this to him, but I feel bad for him in a sense, because I feel like now I didn't like what, and I think this is very disingenuous to say. This is not for me, but Justin Tucker is one of the best kickers in the game of football today. He deserves to be first ballot. He has done some amazing things. Not too many kickers can say that they can do. I think he's on an elite list of kickers. I think he should be top 3 of all time. But this recent discourse of he's cooked, he's the new Matt Stover, I think is extremely disingenuous. First and foremost, he's getting older. Okay? Now, it is normal for kickers to not be perfect. I've seen Sebastian Jodorowsky miss kicks, Jason Elam, Mike Vanderjagt, Orlando Mare. There's a few others I could go off. But the 56-yarder in the second quarter, he's now 1-7 on kicks beyond 50 yards. And I know he's turning 35 in November, but I don't see what the issue is. First and foremost, we have to stop putting him expecting, oh, it's Justin Tucker, he's got this. I mean, he's the most accurate kicker in the league. But I mean, he had plenty of leg, but he just went wide left. It happens. I mean, we really shouldn't have to continue to rely on him to always to bail us out. And I think it's a slump. I mean, and Daniel Carlson, he made second? He made 2 50-yard kicks after Justin missed that, if I remember correctly. So look, it happens. But I think that it's not just about the 50-yarders attempts. I think that there's 2 other phases of the football that need to be held accountable too. This offense is it looks very suspect, and the defense too. And Zach Orr, another one. I hate to be negative today, but I understand these are growing pains. But you blew a 10-point lead, and in fairness too, this was the same time last year. not that last year, the year before, Mike McDonald against Miami. But you were great against the run, but you caused one turnover. That's great. But you allow Gardner Minshew to be 38 for 30 for 38, 276 yards and a touchdown, and a QBR 9.7. Can't defend that. I mean, at some point, we really, really have to be honest with ourselves. What are we doing? It feels like we're kind of throwing the season away. I'm just disappointed. Now, and there are some positives out there that I mentioned earlier. Derrick Henry in the second half was definitely a positive. Our offense in that first drive in the second half was positive. Our defense, the trenches, look really good. For me, Odafe Owe, he's looking really good. We've been on him a little bit. David Ajabo, he didn't get a sack, but he did flush Minshew out the pocket a couple times. The biggest question coming into the season was replacing Jadeveon Clowney's production. And Owe, Van Noy, and Ajabo showed that they definitely can keep an offense in check. And he's definitely always definitely come out of camp and in the regular season looking really strong. Definitely always had 2.5 sacks. That's the first multi-sack game of his career. Had a strip sack. Fortunately, they recovered that fumble, if I remember correctly. They look good. Really proud of them. But especially going in your fourth year, where this is your money making year. You did everything right. So much great to them. Kyle Van Noy, I know he's dealing with a fractured orbital bone. And real quick, I feel bad for him. It should not take 12 minutes for a training staff to address an injury. I think that's, if you remember, and on the report card for the Chiefs, they got an F on their training staff. But I just wanted to point that out. Nnamdi Madubuike, and Travis Jones. That is a nice that is a pair to be reckoned with on the next couple years. 3 solo tackles for Madubuike, a hit on Minshew. Travis Jones, he got a couple pressures. He had 3 total tackles. But other than that, they looked great. Very proud of this group, the trenches. But our corners, our secondary really, really needs help. And they got to step it up. And I agree. Sometimes in this where accountability takes place. Is the message in the locker room being heard? Because it just kind of just seems like, we lost, and we'll be right there again. But no, I don't want to hear that. These guys were in the AFC Championship game last year. They need to be better. The secondary, especially Marlon Humphrey, Brandon Stevens, Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams. Coming into the season, the secondary took a big hit, and we're already limited. And I feel like, for me, we're not living up to the reputation. We allowed 514 pass yards to Patrick Mahomes and Gardner Minshew. That's more than the first weeks of the season last year, where it was 412. And then from those point on, we went to become the best defense in the league. So, they couldn't get anything going most offensively until late. We contained them to 6 points at halftime. Their running game was non-existent, as I stated. But yeah, in the second half, the passing game, they scored 13 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Devontae Adams beat them on coverage, on simply go routes. Brock Bowers, got open across, and we did poorly at tackling. Now, in fairness, Nate Wiggins was not out there because he's getting off a car. He's coming off a car accident, and thank God he's okay. And he was rolled out with a neck injury. But even with Nate Wiggins out there, it's a next man up mentality. Guys got to step up. They get checks too. Last time I checked. So I'm just very, very just disappointed in how we look. And the schedule from here, I'm not comfortable. I said this before, and I hope I'm proven wrong, but I don't see us winning these next 3 games. We got Dallas, and then we got come back to home to Buffalo, and we got to go to Cincinnati. And you already got people in the mainstream media already, throwing the towel. And I want to get into that a little bit again, but other final takes outside the running game for Vegas needs work. Their defense was pretty good. Their offense, they found ways to win the game. Their offensive line could have been a little bit better. I definitely know that Cody Whitehurst struggled, and they replaced him. They really just need to find some consistency with their offensive line. But again, they got back on track. So congratulations to the Las Vegas Raiders. Much deserved. We are going to take a little break because I definitely want to talk about John Harbaugh and some recent comments that were made about one Ben Cleveland. We'll be right back.
Is where I wanna be.
Okay, so as you have known, the first 2 weeks, the glaring weakness is the right side of our offensive line, and we've those that whether you cover the game for the Ravens or whether you're fans. We're fans. The biggest thing is the offensive line, and particularly at guard. So we've been we've been questioning, why would you put a 6'8", 380-pound tackle at guard? Now, coming into this season, I already kind of knew we were going to have some issues with salary cap, not going to be able to pay players, and that's one area you should never sacrifice is the offensive line. And we went cheap, essentially. So we've questioned why Ben Cleveland has not been getting any playing time. And after each game, John has his media availability. And essentially, let me find it. He's made it very clear, and I quote, "I think Ben's a good player. I like Ben. I want Ben to take the next step. He's in his 4th year. Ben knows what he needs to do. If he wants playing time, he knows how he needs to play and how he needs to practice when he gets that chance." Sorry, ovation right now that Daniel outplayed Ben. Just straight facts, straight up. Matter of fact, if I see that Ben's playing better than Daniel, then Ben will be the starting guard. He practices every day. So I just tell like the guys, show me. I call bullshit on that. Excuse my language, because from OTAs until week 2, so Ben Cleveland then responded to someone from the Baltimore Sun. Let me find that for you real quick. And I thought this was very, very. It was high road, and I respect it. And this was Ben Cleveland a couple days after that, and I quote, There weren't a whole lot of right guard reps taken by me during camp just because of injury and all the above. So just staying ready for when my numbers gets called to go in and play. I feel like I've been most consistent and most proactive throughout camp. It's been a struggle having to move around positions with injuries and stuff like that. But as far as adapting to other positions and just playing where I'm asked, I feel like I've been extremely constant and competitive. So, again, Lindenbaum had got hurt in camp, if I remember correctly. So I would understand why Cleveland took snaps at center. But instead of putting a player naturally at his position, what did you see specifically, John, that would argue the fact that Daniel outplayed Ben for right guard? Because if that's the case, something happened in that locker room. I don't know if he's got pictures. I don't know if he's been injured. He's out of shape. I don't know, because John likes to give these very vague answers, but to not make any adjustments, and then you still kind of go, we'll figure this out, and we're okay. I mean, Chris Long, former defensive end, he made it really clear, and this is what he said. It was on his it's on the Stone podcast, remember correctly. No, I think I forgot what this is called, but it's Chris Long and some other guy. Can't remember the guy's name. But this is what he said. And I quote, "If I were John Harbaugh, I would in a heartbeat put in Roger Rosengarten. I couldn't believe it when I turned on the tape. This dude is Max Crosby. Over a 2-week span, what I've seen is this guy, Patrick McCary, better in the run game because he gets out athlete on the edge when you deal with him with one of the best rushers in the game. I don't want Lamar Jackson to be under siege back there. Give Lamar a chance to extend the play. Lamar is more dangerous as the play goes on. When it comes to choosing a right tackle who can block in the run game, that he can pass protect, I'd rather have a guy who can dance with Max Crosby. At right guard," and I quote, "I don't know whose baby Ben Cleveland punched, but that guy can play. So what's going on?" The film does not lie. He's saying that he said that Daniel outplayed Ben. I looked at the tape. I don't know what, and again, there's tape that from preseason, but I don't know if there's other stuff, but I do not know what he saw from OTAs up until now to back it up. That he's saying a 6'8" right tackle that's out of position outplayed a guard that started the last 2 games this season, who for the most part did his job. So to me, I think that is it. I don't know if it's the transition part. I don't know if it's just maybe with Joe, he no longer with us. He passed away. I don't know if that's playing a role. I don't know, but we shouldn't be having these issues at offensive line, and the fact that we can't seem to. Well, John, doesn't see that. That's where the frustration lies, because it's just always these. When he goes to when he said after the game, these next 15 games will define us. No, that's BS. You came out week 1 against the team that beat you here at home on your turf. You come out and you set the tone. That's where the tone should have been set. No, instead you got punched in the mouth again and you didn't respond. You come up the next week and you lost on the road. You come on the next week at home. You had a 10-point lead in the 4th quarter. You go away from what works, and you had some questionable coaching decisions. Somebody has to be held accountable for that, and it starts with John Harbaugh. But somebody said this on the Ravens Vault podcast: when you've made the AFC Championship, it's a blessing and a curse. And he's not going to get fired. I mean, the way the power is structured in that organization, he ain't getting fired. I mean, it's frustrating. It really is. I hate to see the team the way it is now, and I'm just disappointed. But he did mention. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking at my notes here. He mentioned this week when it came to the Ravens. Where was it? You can have, this is what John Harbaugh said. You can't be a great offensive line with an offense with having a great offensive line. I never believed it was possible. If you go back to 2008, we talked about how you start in the trenches. You start with the offensive line and the defensive line. It's been true since Fielding Yost was the coach at Michigan, and it's going to be true for 100 years from now. We are working in progress. It's all a competition, and it's still in the air in certain spots. You'll probably see different guys in different spots. That's where he needs. I wish he'd stop throwing guys under the bus because he essentially threw Ben Cleveland under the bus. But I'll see it to believe it because we did that last year. I mean, we've done it before. I mean, one year time we had Alejandro Villanueva, God bless him, and there are times we had to have Patrick Carter out there just to be an extra blocker. They had John Simpson out there, and Morgan Moses, and I mean we've done it before, but we got it. But that's one group I would never go cheap on. But I mean, look, unfortunately, in this realm of football today, where your quarterback's the highest paid player, especially it's very top heavy. Salary cap's not a lie, because now look at the aftermath. I'm not blaming Lamar, but that's just the reality because they let Kevin Zeitler walk. They traded Morgan Moses. You got 3 new guys, and they're all young. I think Roger Rosengarten is going to be a great player to come. Voorhees is going to be great. And then you just have to figure out right guard. Right guard to me is the biggest issue. And we'll see how it looks, but it's going to be interesting. But I'm not looking forward to Dallas. I'm not saying – all I'm saying is we're not saying Ben Cleveland should be starting. I want to make that clear. But just see if it works. And the fact that he's not willing to do that. And again, like I said, I'll see to believe it on Sunday against Dallas. But I know how stubborn he could be. And, some coaches after a while, they have their own power and some just become stuck in their ways. But let's go to one final thought.
Thoughts are running through my mind. So just some time to find a minute or two to organize.
All right, so as y'all know, we're playing that team in Dallas. Dallas is coming off an embarrassing loss to the New Orleans Saints, where Alvin Kamara looked good. Derek Carr looks like he's revived. The Cowboys just got their butt whooped. We're going to Jerry World. We're looking to avoid an 0-3 start. And again, for me, the keys is how our run game is going to look, how our run game will look like against their defense. That's one of my biggest keys. They did not do a great job containing Mr. Alvin Kamara last week against the Saints, and I'm really, really hoping that we stick to what we know. But my biggest concern, Michael Parsons will have a field day with this offensive line, because I expect some changes, but knowing how we are and knowing what we're going to do, I just have a feeling that we're going to go away from what worked. I mean, Derrick Henry had 130 yards. He has 130 yards, 2 touchdowns on 2 carries these first 2 games. So how do you look at that? Well, look in the game against the Saints. Trevon Diggs is a great tackler. And especially, with Derrick Henry at full speed, I look for him to take advantage of that. But I think Dallas will be better up the middle. I do think that. But personally, that's one of my keys is Derrick Henry versus their run defense. My second key is our offensive line versus their pass rush. I expect Roger to be the starting right tackle. They're probably going to put Patrick McCarry at right guard. We'll see. But I really would like to see what this will look like. Now, for me, you're 0-2. That was my second key. My next key is you're 0-2. Like, for me, they're going to figure out how to contain Lamar. defensively. And if I'm Lamar, I mean, it starts with our offense. You cannot have these scoring droughts. You have to come out and be aggressive. Like for me, I know Dallas is going to get some needs to get stops. Like, you just can't have 6 touchdowns scored in your first 6 possessions. You can't allow that if you're Dallas. But again, for me, especially it's going to be beating Lamar through the air. That's what I would think Dallas is going to do. Now they had a little running back committee in Dallas. Kirsten, I will look. I know our running defense is pretty stout. I'm concerned against the pass. I know CeeDee Lamb is going to make us work for it, and then we get to see how Dak Prescott looks. Everyone has been very critical. Well, not us, not me, not everybody, but those in the media. They know who they are. Have been very critical, because especially Baltimore giving up almost 257 yards passing per game. Jake Ferguson, I think, will be ready to practice. If he's not, he should have already returned by now. And then just curious to see how their offense looks. But then also, too, more importantly, I cannot see Baltimore going 0-3. Because let me give you a little statistic. Since in the 29 years we have been here in Baltimore, this is the 5th time we started 0-2. There have been 4 times where we did not make the playoffs. 99, we were 8-8. 2002, we were 7-9. 2005, we were 6-10, and then 2015, we were 5-11. I can't see it. I think everything is, for me. I think Baltimore is going to come out and be ready to play. No, I'm gonna be confident. The Baltimore Ravens are going to beat the Dallas Cowboys 28-18.
Guaranteed.
I'm confident in saying that. This is my next thought, and this is the last final thought. I have to call out the national media, particularly one network. It's First Take. I think some of the takes that are regarding Lamar Jackson, some of them have some truth, and some of it I can tell when you're not watching games, you just look at the stats. Context matters. So when they talked about who was the most disappointing team, they talked about Lamar has to be the MVP and take over. Lamar can't block. Lamar can't run. He can't play defense. So sometimes I can't take everything the media says at full face, because just knowing how the media has been towards Lamar since he's come into the league. But when we point out these other issues, that doesn't matter. It's your quarterback. Your quarterback has to play well. And that's total BS. So I just want us to know that sometimes those in the media are going to say things that are going to reel your head off. Emmanuel Acho, he talked about, it's time for the Ravens to panic. No one's panicking. It's more frustration. Blaming Lamar for blowing a 10-point lead is ridiculous. We know you didn't watch the game. And then coming out, lost by a toe, and yet still found ways to crap on the man's performance is beyond me. I don't get it. No, the quarterback in the league in the same breath, shout out to Justin Fields, who I think has been having a great start. His wins are getting downplayed because Russell Wilson should be the starter, instead of Justin Fields is doing enough to win games. My point is that this is the same show that he downplayed Justin Fields the week before, where they took 6 field goals to beat the Falcons. Well, he did just enough to win the game. Sometimes I can't always look to my quarterback. I look to the others. Defense wins championships, last time I thought. And then also, too, it's the others around your quarterback. They got to make plays, too. So that was just my one thought. The media has been on this. I don't know what this is. 1 minute they're on your wagon and they sing your praises, And the next they have this like that they want to criticize you. Then when you call it out, then they like, what are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah. It's just ridiculous. But that's not for me yapping. I'm going to go cry because we're 0-2. And I want John Harbaugh to take accountability, but I know he won't. So thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Get out of here. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you for everything you do. Yeah.
I'm going to reiterate my comments right here, right now. The clock is officially ticking. The honeymoon is over. Damn your feelings. Who gives a damn? You got a job to do. And the job ain't even a championship. It's